Dion, I'm not going to lie to you. After we did the Florida Ole Miss preview, I felt like we disrespected Ole Miss a little bit too much, and I tried to at the end of that preview convey that this was more about how good we thought Florida was than anything
Hmm.
Ole Miss wise. As we do the recap now, I have no regrets. No regrets in the way we did that. Florida 90, Ole Miss 71, Gators led by as many as 22 in this game. Just pure domination from a Florida team that looks like it belongs in the conversation with Auburn and Duke and Houston as like the championship favorites on the national stage.
This SEC tournament is going to be crazy. It's going to be
You know, some
crazy.
people think it's harder to win than the NCAA tournament.
It's me, some people.
Well, those people are idiots.
Also, by the way, Auburn winning the regular season one, they won my first national championship. So I have three national champions that I'm crowning this year. It's the SEC regular season champion, it's the SEC conference tournament champion, and the NCAA tournament champion. Those are my national champions. So I want to congratulate Auburn on getting the first one. They have a chance to repeat though. One of the quickest repeats in the history of sports.
The SEC tournament is going to be so much fun though, and we're going to have you and I previews and recaps of every game this week. I always laugh because all the SEC teams that are in the SEC tournament, ha- pretty much the entire damn conference is going to be the NCAA tournament too, on top of all
Yeah.
the other good teams in the country. But the SEC tournament is going to be a lot of fun. I think I would argue Florida as the favorite in it, to be honest,
Really?
over Auburn. I mean, there are reasons for that, but the way this Florida team is playing, we saw it in this game. You know, Walter Clayton was phenomenal, and when Walter Clayton plays like Walter Clayton, he is the best guard in this league, bar none. And I think
Hmm.
he might be the
Wow.
best
Well,
guard in
listen,
the. I think you could argue he's the best guard in the country when he's playing like this,
uh,
particularly when Elijah Martin and Will Richard also give you double figures. The big men, Alex Condon has stepped into his own and been a
yes.
star the last month or so of the season. Like you look at this roster and the production, there's not a hole. Like the one thing that's been an issue for them is sometimes they start slow. It's entirely self inflicted. I have not found a way yet where you can like a team has just straight up beaten them without there being something Florida did to help that.
I'm not going to sit here and let Chad Baker Mazara hate go by.
Is
Just
he
not
going to
going to let
play, or is he going to take
it.
himself out of the game?
Yeah, listen. Yeah, listen, I take myself out of stuff too. Like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Basketball is an art. Art is expressed through emotion. Chad Baker Mazara is just expressing himself. Just because y'all don't like the expression.
The expression hurt.
It did. It did. Oh man, I'm definitely the Chad Baker Mazar of podcasting, but so I gotta defend my guy. But no, Florida is phenomenal. Florida's phenomenal. I do actually agree that I think they're the at first I didn't agree just because I'm a big Auburn guy
Yeah.
this year. But as you're talking, the other point to be made about Florida is I think they're going to show up and want to punch teams in the mouth and prove a point.
Yeah.
Auburn's point has been proven until the following Thursday. That's their next opportunity to start proving their next point. Um, and I think Auburn. I mean, Auburn's the one or the two. In the tournament,
Yeah.
they're one of the top two seeds. So and that's regardless of if they lose in the first round or not. Florida, I think, could jump Duke though. I'll be honest. I think if Duke were to lose early in the ACC tournament and Florida were to go on to win the SEC tournament, including a win over Auburn in the championship, uh, I guess they could maybe in theory jump Auburn in that case too. But I really do feel like Auburn's points fairly proven.
Yeah.
Florida's isn't, and I think that's going to play a role. Sometimes, like I said it in one of the
Yeah.
previews we did last week. Auburn losing would benefit them. Florida wants to keep this momentum going. They're finally turning into themselves again. They had a
Yeah.
little bit of a lull there. They had some injuries. They're getting healthier. They're starting to beat up on teams they should all over again. I genuinely feel like this team is playing the best basketball out of anyone in the SEC. They had the most transferable schemes in the country, I would say.
Mhm.
There's not a building that they can play in where their style of play won't travel. And a lot of that matters going into all these tournaments. I really like this team. I'm excited to see how far everybody has them going. Because I feel like one of the major keys to winning bracket challenges is you find that team that like is really, really good, but maybe not the most nationally known. And love me a good bracket pool. I feel like people aren't going to have Florida going as far as they need to be. That
Well,
team, depending on where they're at, is should be in the national championship.
the people who are more casual or the people who do not watch this channel will go with Auburn or Duke because that's who they've heard, right, throughout the course of the season with the national media. Florida, I think, has every bit of as good of a chance as those two of cutting down the nets. The only reason why I'm not like all in on Florida is I'm trying to imagine in my mind. I always do this test. Like, can you imagine this team winning a national championship? Like just being there at the end, celebrating, cutting down the nets. And I don't know if I can see Todd Golden there yet. That's literally the only reason why. And it's just because I haven't seen Todd Golden do that yet.
That's
Like
weird.
going back to he was awesome at San Francisco, but they were not great in big games. And Florida up until this season had been inconsistent, right? So I'm having to wrap my head around that. But in terms of like what we've actually seen and what we see on paper and what you would project from a like individual game standpoint, Florida has everything you could want. Everything you could want.
I think okay, but so I guess um but my question towards the Todd Golden stuff is like, so who can you see cutting down the nets? Because there's a part of me I equally can't see Bruce Pearl doing it.
I I can't, but we've seen him win big games,
It's fair.
right? I don't know if I could see John Shire doing it per se,
Okay.
but I've seen Duke do it, and I've seen like him do it with Duke, and so like that's not a huge weird. And we've seen Florida do it too, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like, do we trust you in big games? This
Is it
Florida team, absolutely. I'm just going back, throughout Todd Gordon's career, and now he was at a disadvantage in San Francisco because your big games were against Gonzaga and St. Mary's. You're at a disadvantage there. And the first part of his tenure at Florida, you're rebuilding, and so there's some inconsistencies that are naturally going to be there.
yeah.
But usually, when there is a breakthrough, you always hear people talk about like learning how to win big. Mike, they talk about how the bad boy Pistons had to get back past the Celtics and Lakers, and the Bulls had to get past the Pistons, and the Rockets had to get past the Bulls, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if like Todd Golden and a program of his has had that, but I also don't know if this team needs it.
That's fair. I think uh, um
I don't know if it is fair. Florida fans, you can drag me. I might pick you in the national championship. I'm just saying this is the
I
only
might
thing in my mind that's keeping me from like going out and buying Florida merch right now.
well, I think part of it to add something to your point, part of it is I can't see John Shire cutting the nets down. I sure as hell can see Cooper Flag though. And I
Yes,
think part of it is like as much as I can't see Todd Golden cutting the nets down, when we discuss Florida playing Duke or Florida playing Auburn, I see Janai Broom cutting the nets down. I see Cooper Flag cutting the nets down. I don't know if I see Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton, and them cutting the nets down as special as they are. So I
yeah,
think it's a combination of both to where
that's
it's
fair.
like
Yeah,
their best players aren't as good as the other team's best players, and their coach also kind of fits in that category as well. However,
they're so damn good.
they're so good, and their style of play travels so much better than those other teams' style of play too.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where I we're both probably wrong, and that's why we're both probably going to have them going very far in the tournament as well.
Oh, I made a video on this about a month ago. Like, I think I'm gonna pick them to win the championship. It's them or Duke.
They
They're
will be in the final four.
if they get a 2 seed and I have to deal with a Duke Florida Elite Eight matchup, I'm gonna hate myself. I'm gonna hate myself.
I'm choosing. So that there's certain games tourney play where it's like who I choose in the bracket is different than who I bet on. In a Duke Florida game, I feel like Duke would be like 6 point favorites. Florida covers that.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
Florida covers that. I think Duke wins the game, but Florida would cover type of thing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have too much of an issue picking Duke. I'm gonna have an issue picking against Duke. That's gonna be my problem.
Florida would be the only team I would think about beating Duke.
Auburn, gotta be Auburn.
Ah, I don't know.
Nah,
I don't know. I don't know.
Duke's really athletic, and Auburn isn't as athletic as Duke, in my opinion.
I think they well, we've seen them beat Auburn already.
That's fair. In Cameron, though.
It's true, and off of Maui. So there are lots of things at play. Let's touch on Ole Miss before we get out of here, because
Mm-hmm.
we've just spent this time gushing about how good Florida is. We talked about you brought up in the preview about how like Sean Padula was doing all this stuff, and I think I rudely interrupted you and said that if Sean Padula is the one you're talking about, like that's the issue with Ole Miss in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Padula had 22 in this game. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else sucked.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with Ole Miss?
Didn't play any defense.
I mean,
didn't
they
play.
didn't.
Yeah, didn't play any defense. Also, if Sean Padula is your best player, I mean, this is probably the best type of team you can have. If you told me Sean Padula is the best player on a 21-10 team, that's kind of your ceiling. If anything, they might have
Yeah,
played above the ceiling a tad. I think Chris Beard, I said it in the preview. I don't know how much better of a team he can get than this. I just don't. Like at Ole Miss. I don't know how much more he can do. I mean, come to the sip. I want one of the hoodies, Lane. But he's also not Lane. That's the thing. He's
yeah.
not Lane Kiffin. I don't think Chris Beard's as relatable. Um, as welcoming. Like the recruiting that Lane Kiffin has to do to get people to the SIP, I'm not sure Chris Beard can do. I do also think like with his the evidence against him from the situation with his ex or his wife, I don't know if they're broken up or not, but his wife at the time at least. How many moms are going to be the one like argue like support like arguing for their kid to go to that school, like when their son is choosing between Ole Miss and someone else, like how many moms are going to be like Chris Beard, great guy, that's going to be something against him for a little bit. And when this is what happens when Sean Padula is your best player. I don't know if they're ever going to have a player better than Sean Padula though.
I think the problem is that they should have. Like Sean Padula, first off, this is not a knock on him individually as a player because he has maxed out his capabilities. It feels like he is
Mm-hmm.
playing awesome. But if you want to talk about Ole Miss as being a top 20 team like they were earlier in the season and competing with the top teams in the SEC, you probably need him to be your third or fourth best player.
Right.
And to be fair, like Matthew Morrell and Dre Davis were supposed to be those guys. Jimmy Brakefield was supposed to be that guy. Malik Diaz showed flashes of being that guy. And the inconsistency of those guys is who I blame this on. And you can blame Beard for not getting the most out of those guys. I'm fine with that. But those are the ones I'm looking at where if they're going to do anything from this point on, it's on it's on those guys, particularly Morrell and Davis. Like it is on them to do something and play like stars.
I agree. I agree. I That's a fair point that they should have people that are better than Padula. I don't know if I think those guys are better than Padula. Maybe I'm overrating Padula though.
Well, he's given you a reason to. He's been awesome.
Well, I feel like he did at Virginia Tech too. Like I really liked his game in the past as well.
Some words that I never thought I would utter, Dion. Get Sean Padula some help.
Is he a fifth year senior?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm. I wonder if he went to any schools where you can just randomly get another year of eligibility.
He's a true senior, but there are 3 years at Virginia Tech, so there's no like JUCO.
COVID?
Mm-mm. Nope.
No.
133 career games. Think this is a wrap.
I would like to see another year of Padula. I wouldn't hate that.
I hope he like shows up in the G League or like Summer League in like 3 years and is just like the Summer League MVP.
Honestly, like now that we players are like in college for so long, I don't like to see them go anymore. Like that's what I've learned this year. Like I used to beg for Perry Ellis to finally be out of school. Like what? When is this going to happen? It's year 10 of Perry Ellis. Now I'm like, no, I want year 8 of Chad Baker Mazara. Why would we stop him from playing? Is it not a bit more beneficial for us if some of these guys play in college than go to Europe and play basketball?
I mean, it's true. The COVID, this is gonna be such a weird offseason. With the COVID year essentially being done, unless you're a fifth year guy. Um, but then you have the JUCO stuff that's up in the air. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting how all this is going to work. And then you're going to have 35-year-old Chad Baker Mazzaro still hanging out.
Well, that's the thing. Now that you're paying people and openly doing it, I
Yeah.
feel like you're gonna have to change something around because some people are gonna be like, "What's the difference of me going to play in Europe versus this 22-year-old from Europe coming to play college basketball?"
It's true. All this fun stuff that we get to cover. We'll
It's gonna be a
see.
fun off season.
Gonna be a
Gonna
fun
be a
off
fun off
season.
season.
Ole Miss will probably be getting ready for it much sooner than Florida.
Chris Beard will be getting ready for his off season sooner than Todd Golden as well, and it won't be at Ole Miss.
We'll see. We'll see.